Duke's OceanFest, a legacy of surfing, is sponsored by Surfboard Factory Hawaii and Kapolei. More boards, more brands than anyone.
Aloha! August in Waikiki means hitting the beach in the annual Duke's OceanFest. Duke's OceanFest is Waikiki's premier ocean sports festival, which celebrates Hawaii's famous beaches, surf legends, and the aloha spirit through competitions and cultural events in which Duke Kahanamoku, the father of international surfing himself, participated. This year, as Duke's OceanFest celebrates its 20th anniversary, we talked story with several outstanding and inspirational athletes from Hawaii who capture Duke's spirit of aloha and excellence in the ocean. Through their life stories, we see Duke's impact on them, Hawaii, and the world. Duke's OceanFest, a legacy of surfing, starts now.
One of the most influential figures in the world of surfing, Paul Strauch Jr., is one of the few surfers who can say they were mentored by the great Duke Kahanamoku. Paul was already a champion teenage surfer when he was selected to be a member of Duke's surf team in the 1960s. Still surfing in his 70s now, Paul continues to pass along Duke's legacy at the annual Duke's OceanFest.
I've always felt privileged to be introduced at an early age. I was 4 when I was taken down to the Waikiki. And my dad was very patient, and so he'd take me out on his 10-foot redwood board there was no fins on at that time. We'd go out to Baby Queens, turn around and catch a wave, a small wave, but it was just, I marvel, and I'll never forget that image. So of seeing all the fish dart back and forth between the seaweed as we're approaching, and the board would scare them away, but oh my God, it was like being in a giant aquarium. And then riding right up on the beach, with the board with no fin on it. And so it was that introduction that made me realize how special Waikiki is. I remember, I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. Bruce Brown I met and really liked him, and he'd come out with different movies, but The Endless Summer was his really, truly claim to fame. It was a fantastic story about surfing and about all these different countries that have, in one way or another, been influenced by surfing that all started here, in Hawaii. And, my relationship with Duke also played a big role with that too. And my dad knew him because they were friends, and so that's kind of the introduction that I had to Duke. I was just so fortunate to have had that experience, It's such a privilege, and I'll never forget that. I think often about Duke and miss him very much. Duke Kahanamoku had a gas station on Montserrat Avenue. Keone McVeigh, who had the restaurant right there in the International Marketplace, he went and filled his gas, and one day, and he says, we went to pay the bill, and he says, "Aren't you Duke Kahanamoku?" And he says, "Yes, that's my name right there on the station." And so he says, "What are you doing, pumping gas?" He says, "Because it's my business." He says, no, we got to do something else. You shouldn't have to do this, or shouldn't even be seen putting, gas in a tank. So I'm gonna see what I can do. And then he was a showman as well, and so he arranged to get Don Ho and the Elite East to sign a contract, and then became part of the show. And so that all really just blew up Duke's name, and brought it to a more contemporary crowd. Kima would, share the experiences that Duke, made for Hawaii, that made it so popular as a tourist destination, and his great surfing and his Olympic medals and swimming. And so it all kind of came together. He always wanted me to sit next to him. And I said, "Oh, you really want me to sit next to you? Why?" He says, "Well, because you can understand Hawaiian, and I like to talk in Hawaiian, so I don't want to be offensive to anybody else saying something in English. And he was a very, very sensitive man. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And so, and plus I cannot hear that well, so if you restate the question, yeah, I would lead him the question back to him, and it worked so well with him. And we were on a trip to California with Fred and Butch and myself. Keone arranged to have us front row and center for the Sammy Davis show, you know, which was fabulous. It was like an hour and a half long performance, and it was just incredible. So after the show, Keone says, you guys sit here, I'll be right back. And he says, I have great news, Duke, you can't believe what I arranged. We're all going back to Sammy Davis's dressing room to see him. Isn't that great? Are you excited, Duke? And he says, I think I'm gonna go back to the room. And so Keone says, you don't want to go and see Sammy Davis Jr.? And he says, he was like 5 feet away from me for over an hour. I saw a lot of him, yeah. And it was so cute, you know. It was so special. But Duke had that way of communicating, but he still never lost his graciousness, you know. I remember this was in the 1965 United States Surfing Championships at Huntington Beach. And so I was there together with him. He was the guest of honor throughout the event. And then they had the award ceremony. And for the senior men's, they called up the 6 finalists to the stage. And prior to that, everybody that was called up, starting with 6th place and working their way down to 1st, they all walked up, shook the hand of the director, kissed the queen, you know, walked up, got their trophy, shook the hand of the presenter, and then walked to the front of the stage and stood, and then each one filled in behind them, you know. So they got the 3rd place, was Corky Carroll, and he was from California, and so he got up on the stage, didn't shake the hand of the contest director, walked past the queen, took the trophy, and walked to the front of the stage, and he kept walking back and forth like this, and then both standing with Duke and were watching this. And so he finally found what he was looking for, when it was a big garbage can, you know. He walked to the front of the stage, took the trophy, looked down at it, and just threw it in the garbage can, and then stomped off the stage. Oh man, my chest was heaving, and I was gonna go back and talk to Corky and teach him a lesson, you know, about sportsmanship. And so, but I was standing right next to Duke, and I said, Duke, did you see that? And he says, yes, I did, Paul. And I said, what do you think about that? And Duke took a breath and he says, isn't it great? And I go, what are you talking about? And he says, these guys really want to win. That spirit, this is the spirit that you need to compete, you know? And you never can lose sight of that. And it took all the wind out of myself, believe in my chest and everything. Oh gosh, I let out a deep breath. And I said, you're right, Duke. You know, you just got to look past that and let them realize that on their own terms and in their own way, you know. And I never forgot that statement that he made. He was always humble, and I always gave it to the other guy, you know, in terms of generosity. But I'll share one more story about Duke. You know, there's an infamous surfboard ride that he caught from outside castles, and they were called bluebirds when they broke out there, when an extremely large south swell would come in. And he caught a wave on a 16-foot redwood board there and rode from there all the way to the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. And as the story went, he got off his board in front of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. And it's always been a goal of mine to try and replicate that. And so one day, the surf came up as a very, very large south swell. And so I went out there, waited for maybe almost an hour and a quarter for the set to come into the bluebird range. And I took off, and I tried to stay high on the wave to get me through those couple flat sections and so I could get down farther. And then, but I realized, you know, there's no way I'm going to get to the Royal Hawaiian. And so I got as far as the Moana, and then it all closed out. It just made me think about what he did and those challenges were private to him, but how he was such an inspiration. And I just wish there were more Hawaiians and the part Hawaiians and even the non-Hawaiians here in the state, would just improve their communication and the way they treat everybody else in Duke's honor. He was a very special man indeed.
Duke's OceanFest, a legacy of surfing, is sponsored by Surfboard Factory Hawaii and Kapolei. More boards, more brands than anyone.
She was the first Native Hawaiian Paralympian to compete in any sport at the Brazil 2012 Games, exactly 100 years after Duke was the first Native Hawaiian Olympian in any sport. Like Duke, she's an all-around aquatic champion and enthusiast, not to mention a world champion in surfing, paddling, and kayaking. In 2002, she completed her first long-distance prone paddleboard race, meaning lying flat on a board, from Mauna Lua Bay to Waikiki. We'll let her tell that story. Please welcome Ann Yoshida.
I was not prepared for that race. I was a surfer, I surfed a lot, and so I felt like I was in shape, but when I got on that prone board, I definitely was not in shape. So the story is I jumped on that board. When I got out to the break point where you turn right to get to Diamond Head, I was so spent already. I felt like I couldn't do the race. But when I was a young girl, my grandmother, my grandfather, my dad and mom, all of my family really tell me to look towards the ocean for answers, look towards the ocean for inspiration in what you're doing. And I found this water bottle. My neck was so sore, I found this water bottle. I put that under my neck and I was able to use that throughout the race. And then I was able to carry on. I went down by Secrets, and at Secrets, I was exhausted. I was like, I need to paddle in. But at that time, I saw a turtle there. Seeing the turtle brought me back to, hey, I'm looking for those signs. I get more energy and I can be renewed again. So I was able to paddle more, and coming around Black Point, I was spent again. My escorts were already like, oh man, you're too slow. This is taking too long. And I was really spent, and not 2 seconds before I was gonna make a decision to go in, 40 spinner dolphins just jump and start spinning. And it was like, oh my gosh. And it was like literally from here, maybe 20 feet away from me. They were jumping and following and jumping. And I was like, okay, if the dolphins are telling me to keep going, I'm gonna keep going. So as I was coming around the bend, I was like, oh man, this is way too hard. And I was like, I gotta go into Kaimanas. I'm done, I pushed through how many times, I can't do it anymore. There is no more energy in me. I'm in pain with my neck, I'm in pain with my lower back. I couldn't do it. And a monk seal came right up and popped up to me. And he just like rolled on his back and looked at me. At first I was super scared. He turned his back, he looked at me, his eyes, and we met eyes. And then he was like, all right, keep going. So I kept going and I paddled. I tried my best not to fall, and I just paddled and paddled and paddled. And in the distance, I saw the Duke statue. It just like made me energized to be able to know that I can finish something, and my family and my friends and everyone around is there to see the first adaptive athlete cross that race as a prone paddleboarder. Duke definitely had a huge part in supporting people with disabilities, but also himself with rehabbing and things like that, getting back into the ocean. And we can really use the ocean as our strength, as a place where we can renew, and also a way for us to be healthy and push ourselves. Because I never knew I could push myself that much. And that was an impetus to me being able to push myself for the Paralympics and for other things that I've done in my life. Access Surf is that community that helped me re-identify with who I was as a surfer before I was in a car crash that left me paralyzed. And that empowered me. The whole process of regaining my identity helped empower me to do so many things in life. And I really would not have, I don't think I would be where I'm at if I didn't go back and I didn't get to surf. Before surfing was at Duke's, there really wasn't a lot of competition. There was, adaptive surfing could happen. People were doing it, but where could we take it? I've gone around the world and surfed and shared adaptive surfing with others and shared my experience with adaptive surfing. And it is amazing what is happening in the world. Adaptive surfing really is pulling together and creating a community of strength, a community of watermen, a community of innovating what a disability looks like in people's eyes. So when Duke's and OceanFest, brought in the competition for the first year, it solidified it. Hey, Duke Kahanamoku's legacy is picking up adaptive surfing as a competitive sport. It strengthened the sport. It has come a long way. And I think one of the main goals for adaptive surfing is to make adaptive surfing a para sport in the Paralympics. I think there's a huge possibility. It might be a possibility that I even get to compete. My thoughts and my eyes are there, but now I'm trying to create the plan. And I would love to represent Hawaii in the Paralympics for surfing, because that is my identity. That would be like full circle. Hopefully I create a legacy, that of one that Duke's has created, to develop the sports, but also to develop the culture and share that with the world, really. The Waterman Hall of Fame is something that I've always looked as, the pinnacle of the watermen. And I didn't realize that when I was inducted, I was like, no way, I can't do this. I don't think I did anything really, but that helped me realize that what I was doing was on the right path, and that sharing the sport, sharing the knowledge that I have, the mana'o that I have, really does help empower people to be active, to get out and practice their culture. People of the ocean, they don't have to get, accolades or, medals or anything like that. What they can do is just do what they can do and live their extraordinary. Enjoy it while you can. There are seasons in life, and those seasons, opportunities come. And when opportunities come, don't pass it by. Don't let fear stop you. Get involved, get knowledgeable about whatever you're doing, have faith in your abilities, and be able to laugh at your mistakes and allow those mistakes and those weaknesses and those failures to refine you as a person, because it will if you allow it to. I would say get out and do it.
Only 31 years old, the four-time Beahi Challenge champion has etched his name among the best big wave surfers of all time. After dealing with several traumatic events during his career, Billy Kemper still secured victories in several events at Sunset Beach, won multiple XXL Ride of the Year awards, became the Big Wave Tour World Champion, and dominated the lineup at Jaws. In February 2020, during a strike mission to the fabled Right Point Breaks of Morocco, Billy endured a near-fatal wipeout. While setting up for a barrel, he was pitched off his board, went over the falls, and was knocked unconscious, resulting in a broken pelvis, a collapsed lung, cracked ribs, and a knee that needed to be reconstructed. A year later, he's already back in the water, surfing as strong as ever.
It's just home for me, you know, big waves and challenging myself against Mother Nature is natural. I'm like charged by nature, you know, things that motivate me are, you know, what I have no control in, what I don't know the right answer to. And as crazy as it sounds, the addiction of fighting fear and being able to turn a switch of fear into adrenaline is what I can't get enough of. I feel safe when I'm out there. I feel disconnected to all the violence and trouble on land. It's just truly where I'm meant to be. I love it out there, and the feelings and the rewards that come with surfing big waves they're just, you know, you can't make them. Any surfer who's held out of the ocean, if they're saying they don't miss surfing, they're lying to you, because surfing is, you know, we're all connected by water, and this is the best thing in the world. There's nothing that compares to it, and it hurt, but it made me that much more happy to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to physical therapy the next day. You know, I knew the harder I worked, the faster I'd be in the ocean, and that's the motivating key to getting back out there. Through those 6 months, what I learned, what I gained, I wouldn't change it for nothing. You know, yeah, I was injured, yeah, my life was at question. Was I scared? Yeah, I found what fear was through this, and you know, that's all part of the process of getting to where I want to be. I don't feel like I'm at where I want to be yet. It was a very humbling and great learning experience. People always ask me what it was like growing up on Maui and with Jaws being in my backyard, and the best way I can put it into perspective is, you know, there's all these kids growing up maybe in a city like Los Angeles, and their dream in life is to be the next Magic Johnson or Kobe Bryant or, you know, a Dodger player, you know, and I'm sure they're begging their parents to go to these stadiums, the Staples Center, the Dodger Stadium, and watch these guys play ball. And they look at them as like, you know, superheroes. I want to be Kobe when I grow up. And for me, there was no stadium, there was no field. It was the cliff of Pe'ahi, and I used to go there when I was, you know, like children's age, 3, 4, 5 years old, and I used to look down at Laird Hamilton and Derek Donner, Dave Kalama, you know, the OGs of Jaws, and that was truly what it was like growing up there. I used to look at those guys like Superman and Spider-Man, like they were my superheroes. They were what I wanted to be as a kid growing up on Maui, and like that's what I thought was the coolest, sickest thing in the world. And over time of studying what those guys were doing, and then the next generation, and then my generation of, you know, wanting to tow the biggest, craziest barrels out there, and that time in my life of being that middle teenager in high school and your parents telling you that surfing's not a job, or, you know, it's not going to pay the bills, you know, you need to go to college. That was just like a bunch of nonsense that made me want to surf Jaws that much more. And I do remember going out there my first time. I was with my best friends from Maui, Marlon Lewis, Matt Miola, and Albie Lair, and we hitchhiked a few rides off of other guys towing in. They whipped us into some waves, and from that day on, you know, it was all history after that. And most importantly for myself and Albie Lair, that moment, that day right there, just that started a whole new race through life. And we've been chasing what we were introduced to that day since then. You know, it's this feeling of overcoming your fear, this feeling of being uncomfortable and not knowing what's going to happen. It's a feeling we can't get enough of, as crazy as that sounds. You know, I've surfed in so many surf contests around the world, and events like the Duke OceanFest is something that stands out more than a surf competition. You're talking about a foundation, you're talking about the legacy of the man who put Hawaii on the map with the Olympics, with the birth of surfing, you know, anything that has to do with the legacy of Duke Kahanamoku, it just really turns things very prestigious. When surfers are asked, you know, what's motivated them or inspired them to really, you know, pursue this health and awareness and training and all that, without a doubt, all that inspiration is coming from, you know, Duke. You know, that was the forefront of it. You know, the birthplace of surfing, the first Hawaiian to ever win a gold medal. I feel like surfing did not get the recognition of an Olympic gold medalist, you know, as a professional athlete. Surfing didn't get that for years. And I feel like right now with, you know, I'm so honored and grateful to be a part of this generation and a part of this movement of surfing getting the respect of, you know, the opportunity to compete in the Olympics. We're looked at as athletes now, training, physical therapy, taking care of your body, recovery. There's so much that goes on before the surfing that decides most likely what that result's gonna be. And I wanna be living proof of, you know, pro surfers are professional athletes, and whether we're holding Olympic gold medalists or, you know, riding the biggest waves in the world, I want that respect, and I feel like it was lost. And I feel like this is bringing back the birthplace of surfing, bringing back the legacy of Duke Kahanamoku and the athleticism that he brought Hawaii on, put Hawaii on the map for. You know, that's, you can't take that away from Hawaii, you can't take that away from our state, and I just feel like we're at a point where we're getting that respect back. You know, as a surfer, as a surf fan, as somebody who just lives for surfing, this has been a dream of mine. I'm not competing in the Olympics this year, but it's been a dream of mine to see my friends, to see my sport be on the Olympics. You know, most importantly with two of our own, you know, to have John Florence and Carissa Moore, two people Hawaii born and raised, go represent Duke Kahanamoku in the birth of surfing in the first year ever at the Olympics. It's such an honor, it's such a cool time, and I think, you know, without Duke doing what he did, none of this would be possible. I feel like to give back to his legacy, his family, and the state of Hawaii, you know, this is what it's all about, and it's humbling to say that I'm a part of it.
At 14, Duke Kahanamoku embraced his responsibility to master the ultimate Hawaiian tradition, becoming a waterman.
A waterman is someone who can do everything in the water.
As a kid in Hawaii, you wanted to be a waterman, and the Duke was the big kahuna.
To us, he's the king of surfing.
No American athlete has influenced two sports as profoundly as Duke Kahanamoku.
He was on the world stage, even though the world wasn't ready for it.
All of a sudden, it's like he's a superstar.
Jim Thorpe, Jesse Owens, Jack Johnson, and lost in that shuffle is Duke's role as a racial pioneer.
He did encounter overt racism.
He was able to break a lot of color lines.
The amount of pride that he was able to give to his people. He was one of the biggest celebrities in the world.
Aloha.
He had come from nowhere to the Olympic team in 3 months, which is an unrivaled story in Olympic history.
He changed the world with the Kahanamoku kick, the same kick that Michael Phelps learned.
A superhuman feat. He's bringing a sport that nobody has seen before to their shores.
I think that Duke shared surfing with the world because it was the greatest gift that he had received in his life, and he wanted other people to experience it.
He rescued so many people. Life-saving wasn't a profession back then.
There are true heroes in the world, and he was one of them.
Duke accomplished the seemingly impossible. The story of one of America's greatest icons. When the world saw Duke, they saw Hawaii.
Duke's OceanFest, a legacy of surfing, is sponsored by Surfboard Factory Hawaii and Kapolei. More boards, more brands than anyone.
Kelia Moniz is a former world longboard champion, raised on Waikiki Beach, where her parents, Tammy and Tony, teach surfing at the Faith Riding Company. She's been traveling the world from an early age and won titles including the Gidget Pro at the 2009 Duke's OceanFest and the Longboard World Tour in 2012. And if she looks familiar, it's because she's also the face of the surf, snowboard, and fitness brand Roxy. Welcome, Kelia.
I guess I never recognized how many more men there were in the water growing up as a girl. It was just normal to me and normal to a lot of the women who surfed Waikiki. And you know, as much as there were a lot of men, there were a lot of women that I looked up to as a little girl surfing in Waikiki. So I felt like that was a really special thing. As a young surfer, was having so many, not just men, but women around who I was very fortunate to look up to and kind of follow their lead. Growing up with four brothers, it really taught me a lot. It actually just taught me to just be, I think. There was definitely no point of difference in my upbringing being a girl. I was just brought up just like the boys. I think that was really special because it pushed me for sure. It taught me a lot. We knew nothing but the beach. We knew nothing but, I guess, being salty little beach kids. My mom and dad had a surf school right there in front of Uncle Duke's statue. Iconic Duke statue in Waikiki, and we literally would surf in front of him every day. We had a very special childhood. My mom homeschooled us. She helped my dad run his surf school in the beginning days, and we would show up in Waikiki every day at 7 a.m. with soft tops and a pop-up tent and all our school books, and we would just post up on the beach, do our school, and go surfing. That was our life. The beach was our life, and it was really special. It was something that I would have never changed. Super blessed childhood, for sure. Uncle Duke's legacy is still moving, and it's still alive. Growing up in Waikiki, you're growing up surfing with a lot of visitors. You have tourists, thousands of tourists that you share your beach with every day. And it was one of those things where when you grow up around it, you don't really see it that way. You just see it as you're going to the beach and this is so fun and all these things. And I think that's because my parents would share us stories of how Duke Kahanamoku shared surfing with tourists, with visitors. And for us, I think that, you know, it was this story that was of embrace, of aloha, and of sharing this thing that we do called surfing with the world. And I think because of the narrative that he was so excited to share this, that we kind of always had that same posture of, it wasn't a bother that there were people there, it was actually a blessing that we were able to share what we know with tourists and our visitors. And fortunately, now we're able to do that when we travel around the world and surf competitively or just for fun elsewhere. I hope that I'm able to carry out just a portion of what he's contributed and added to surfing and what he's done for surfing. I hope that I can share those stories with my son and my future children and have them carry that same posture of aloha and of surfing forever. The Duke OceanFest for me as a child was just one of those times of the year that we look forward to. I think having your friends from around the island and from the outer islands come and enjoy your beach with you is really special, and sharing your beach with your friends that you don't get to see all the time is really special. So for my brothers and I, we always look forward to having all our friends in Waikiki, surfing all day, and obviously competing. It was just a really special event, just being able to be joined together by the ocean for OceanFest. Yeah, it was something we look forward to every year. I have very vivid memories of the times that I've been able to spend at that event and watching some of the, world's best longboarders come to Waikiki and surf the waves so beautifully and learn a lot from them. So, I have some of the best childhood memories of surfing the Duke Fest, and a demonstrator for the world. Seeing surfing in the Olympics this year was really special. Obviously, as a dream of once, Uncle Duke, this was his dream come true to see surfing in the Olympics, and one, that was very special. Two, seeing a native Hawaiian female surfer bring home the gold was, I guess, best case scenario. And growing up with Carissa, she exudes aloha, she exudes everything that I think Hawaii wants to be represented as. And I'm just so proud to be a surfer and to be a Hawaiian surfer. And thank you, Carissa, for representing all of us so well and representing Uncle Duke the way I think the best anyone could ever represent him. We're really proud of you, and I'm so excited to see what's to come in the future of surfing in the Olympics and maybe Hawaii in the Olympics one day. For me, I'm entering a very new chapter in life as a new mom, taking things super slow. I'm really excited. It's been my dream to be a mom, so I'm just enjoying all the little moments with my son, and I'm just hoping that I can share with him and give him the childhood that my parents blessed me with and my brothers with, and I hope that I can just give him that life of freedom, being at the beach, and just enjoying being a kid in this beautiful place we call home.
Duke's OceanFest supports the outrigger Duke Kahanamoku Foundation to perpetuate the legacy of Duke Kahanamoku, an Olympic swimming champion, the godfather of surfing, and Hawaii's first ambassador of aloha. Since its inception in 1986, the outrigger Duke Kahanamoku Foundation has granted more than 1,000 scholarships and 800 grants, totaling more than $3 million. Hawaii's student athletes earn these prestigious awards through all-around accomplishments in academics, athletics, leadership, and aloha for the community. They all, in some way, emulate the spirit of Duke Kahanamoku and strive to continue his legacy of excellence and aloha.
I love to surf. Always have and always will. Surfing has always been something that I could come back to as a source of joy in my life. There's no better feeling than being out amidst friends, surfing beautiful waves here in Hawaii.
Paddling has always held a special place in my heart because it's been about a team sport. You're moving together as one, you're moving the boat all forward as one, and you can feel that power. And you're out on the water, which has been the most magical thing to me.
I played the Duke sport of boys volleyball, and it has truly shaped me to who I am today. My favorite memories are just the hard work every day with the boys and improving. It's a great feeling to improve every day.
I've been surfing since I was about 3. It's just always been so special for me. I love surfing with friends, and just being in the ocean is just so amazing.
The Duke sport that I play is paddling. I really enjoy it, and it comes from my heritage.
Channel swimming has definitely been the most important and influential Duke sport in my life. It's taught me perseverance, it's taught me how to set challenging goals for myself, and it's given me the confidence to share my passions with others.
Congratulations to all the student athletes, and mahalo to the outrigger Duke Kahanamoku Foundation for inspiring the next generation of aloha. Keone Downing was born in 1953 and is the son of the legendary George Keoki Downing, a family known as surfing royalty, as Keone's dad was one of the last of the Beach Boys who was mentored by Duke himself. Keone earned his own surfing stripes in 1968 and 69 when he was named Makaha Junior Champ, and by age 16 he was ranked 6th in the world.
This really was Keone Downing's day. Here's his 4th wave in the second round.
Leading to the World Professional Tour, and in 1990 winning the Quicksilver in memory of Eddie Aikau.
Keone Downing.
We got it pretty good in Hawaii.
You know, our mix of people and how we all gravitated here is really special. I think that's what he shared to us, you know, his Hawaiian way of carrying himself and his understanding that you don't need to speak loud, you know, but speak the truth and share the truth so others can enjoy. I always remember Duke telling my dad one day is that, you know, I've watched all of the Beach Boys, and he said, Keoki, it's going to be your turn to take care of Mamala Bay, and I leave it in your hands to take care of it. And so my dad carried that till he died, because he felt that how important Mamala Bay was for our family. Duke, I guess all I could say is he was the best Duke that you could have. And so because of that, the relationships that he formed with people and the humility he had to share allowed people to gravitate to him. And I don't know if he really enjoyed all of it, but he also understood where he was in the lineup, I like to say, and he knew it was his to share with everybody else who weren't as fortunate as him. A story on Duke was that he'd always sit on the Eva wall at the Auri Canoe Club and lean up against it. And one day, my dad said, when he was probably, I think, 14, 15, said all the Beach Boys were always complaining, you know, oh, look at Duke, he's sitting by himself, he doesn't want to hang out with us. And so it bothered my dad. So my dad walked up there. He says, you know, Duke, can I ask you a question? He says, how come you don't sit with all the Beach Boys and hang out? She goes, you know, Keoki, come, sit down next to me. Lean up against the wall. Really warm, huh? This is where I come to warm up, because the wall's been heated all day. But I'm not going to tell all those guys, then they'd be taking away all the heat from the wall and I wouldn't get to warm up. But that's why I come sit here, not because I don't want to be with them. This is where I can have thoughts to myself and warm my body. You know, so he says, but you go back, don't say anything. Waikiki is so special. It taught us how to live. It taught us about respect. It taught us about self-esteem and yourself, what you could learn from the ocean, and the reality, surfing. Everybody calls it a sport, and I have a hard time. I say that's just one aspect of surfing. Surfing is so parallel to life's lessons that you can learn on your own, and how you use it, how you learn about it, how you go through observation, the scientific side, bathymetry of how a wave breaks. You get to learn all these things that you don't really get to learn in school. Because of it, it's just enriched me. It's enriched our family. It's made it, I mean, here's my dad at 10 on his own, and where he ended up going was because of surfing and his interest in learning, his interest in tourists. Because he said to me one day, you know, when I sat there on the beach learning to be a beach boy, I said, how do these people afford sailing on a boat for 1 week? They come to Hawaii, they spend 8-10 days, and they sail back on a boat for 1 week. Yeah, if I took that much time off of work, I'd be poor, I'd be broke. So he found that they were a part of education for him. He could ask questions. He learned about economics from talking to people. He learned about health. When the gentleman said, you know, Keoki, I'll give you all the money I have, and I'm worth millions for your health, because I'm dying. And all the money is not going to make me healthy. So as we were growing up, you have that life lesson, and you start to think about it. And I remember one time we were sitting at a dinner table, and my dad says, look, you guys want to be millionaires? And my brother and my sister, and I'm the oldest, we look around at each other and goes, sure, sounds good, right? Have all the money we can use. He goes, great, go in your room, pack your bag, we're going to California. So everybody paused, and I was the first one, and I said, no way. You know, this was worth way more than any amount of dollar. And so it taught me at a real early age about balance in one's life, balance in what you do, how you treat people. There's just so many things that have come out of it, and I laugh about it now because here was my dad. He was going down to the legislature and fighting for different things on Waikiki. And one of these senators said to him, "Oh, Mr. Downing, we see you here a lot." And I think it was more being sarcastic about it. And my father said back to him, "You know, Senator, for 50 years I took from Waikiki. For the next 50, I plan to give back. So you're going to be seeing me a lot." And I'd always question, well, how come you're spending so much time? And then all of a sudden I got to this age and I found myself there. And not because I wanted to be there, but what I found out, it was my turn. And there was people that are already there that thought they had gotten rid of my dad, and so they could progress a little quicker, but then they saw me. And I saw it on their faces, and I knew that was where I needed to be at that time. So for me, Waikiki is everything. I mean, I'd give anything for Waikiki. I'm frustrated how we haven't been forward thinkers of what we can do to help our environment. We tend to be reactionary instead of proactive. And I think it all stems from most of those people not being water people. I wish that I could take every legislature or everybody that has the power to do something good in Hawaii and take them surfing for a day. Because if they see what Hawaii looks like from the ocean in, they'll have a whole different perspective on how we should take care of it.
On January 22nd, 1968, Duke Kahanamoku passed away in Honolulu. A traditional Beach Boy funeral returned him to the ocean, yet his legacy continues through the outrigger Duke Kahanamoku Foundation. His presence in Waikiki with a statue dedicated on the centennial of his birth is becoming the first inductee to the Hawaii Sports Hall of Fame, and of course the formation of the annual Duke's OceanFest in 2001. Over the last 20 years, the Duke's OceanFest has featured a variety of lifestyle sports, disciplines that were close to Duke's heart, and also helped to shape the lives of many of Hawaii's ocean sports athletes. We'd like to thank our special guests, Paul Strauch Jr. and Yoshida, Billy Kemper, Kelia Moniz, and Keone Downing, for their own individual contributions to ocean sports and for showcasing the aloha spirit, just like Duke. I'm Keahi Tucker. On behalf of Duke's OceanFest, we'll see you in the ocean.
Duke's OceanFest, a legacy of surfing, is sponsored by Surfboard Factory Hawaii and Kapolei. More boards, more brands than anyone.